Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. Today we are going to build this golf simulator. I'm going to walk you through every step of the process. I'm going to share with you all the things that I bought. I'm going to give you a breakdown of my cost, everything that I spent, and I'm also going to give you a little bit of a review about how it's working for me, how I'm enjoying it so far. So if you're curious about that, let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so this whole thing I built myself. The frame, the structure of it, I chose to build it out of wood. I chose to do that because I was a little more familiar with some woodworking. I have some tools to work with wood. There are a lot of people that will use like EMT Conduit, which is like little metal poles, and they kind of fit together almost like a Lego kit or something like that, and that is certainly a very viable option as well. But I chose to do wood just because I'm more familiar with working with wood than with metal. So I started off with a bunch of 2x4s. So this is just pine or softwood 2x4s from my local construction store. They're pretty inexpensive. These I got them at like 12 feet long, and then I just cut them down to size. The frame that I'm building is going to be almost a big square. It's basically 10-foot square. Now, that's not 100% ideal for what I was doing, but we'll get into some of those details later. But you can see here, I'm just basically laying out all my boards. They've all been pretty much cut to about a 10-foot square. And so I'm just using a drill to drill some of these. I'm going to put 2 holes and then these are like 3-inch long deck screws to connect. I use 2 screws in each connection here to connect all these boards together. And I felt pretty confident that these deck screws are going to give me a lot of structural support and hold this thing together well. All right, now I've got a package. This is from Carl's Place. They've got a lot of really quality parts. I went and bought a screen that was on clearance. The size of my screen, it's a standard. They've got like a standard, above average, and a premium model. I got the standard model, and I got it on clearance. Now, it doesn't fit my enclosure perfectly. It's actually 13 foot by 10 foot, but I was pretty happy to get one of these on clearance. It was pretty affordable, and the quality of these screens is pretty high, and so I was pretty pleased with that. You can see they come actually with this nice black like border that has these grommets where you can hold the screen to the structure, and so I'm just marking with a pencil all the holes where those connection holes line up. Next, I'm drilling and screwing in these eye hooks. Now, each of the eye hooks, I had to actually bend them to open up the hook just a tiny bit so I could get a bungee hooked onto them. But I'm just pre-drilling a hole and then screw them in by hand, and then I'm using like a wrench to get them turned the last several turns. And that actually worked really well. You can see now this is with all the eye hooks installed here on the top. I found it actually went a lot faster to prop the board up like this, so I wasn't working on the ground. And now I stood my frame up. Now initially I was going to put this left side panel, but in the end I actually ended up not pursuing the side panel anymore, and I'll show you why. But right now I'm just taking these little, they're called ball bungees. So they're little bungee cords that have a plastic ball, and I'm using them to connect the eye hook to the little grommet opening on the screen edge. Now you can see here where I've fastened the frame into the wall. You can see that's my stud line there, and I just took these 2x4 cutoffs and screwed them into one another so that the frame is secured pretty firmly to the garage. I've got one on the left, one on the right, and also one on the top. And it was really, really firm and solid in its place with those supports. Now, I need to cover the structure up. If you hit a ball directly into the frame, it's going to be a bad time. So I'm using, this is for those EMT pipes, this is like a insulation. So it's like foam insulation for pipes. And I just cut them to length and pushed them up against the 2x4s, and that worked great. You can see here they actually have a perforated side, so they just open up and you just push them into the frame. Now I'm working on the ceiling, and my ceiling is sloped. It actually starts at like 9.5 foot on the left, and then it slopes all the way up to like 12 or 13 or 14 feet. And then you can see I fastened those boards and made that there's like a shower curtain rod. And now you're getting a close-up here of the ball bungees. You can see I actually tied them a little bit into a knot, and I'm using that to hold everything in place. And this is what it looks like here with that completed. Now here on the right side of the panel, because I don't have those grommets, I actually folded the screen over, and I'm using tarp clips and the ball bungees as well to secure the screen on this side. And actually this worked just fine. If you buy a screen that doesn't have any of those edges, you can use that all the way. Now you can see I'm using these drapes. These are two layers of heavy drapes. So this is a retractable right side barrier. Now, yeah, the van is going to be parked there to the right, but I also may take it out when I'm playing golf. Now this is like some rubber underlayment for carpet. I'm going to put this behind the screen in hopes that it kind of helps to deaden the impact and also mute the sound of a ball. So you can see here I just go up to the top and actually nailed it into the frame, and mostly on the area where I'm going to hit balls into. It's just providing a layer of depth to help deaden the sound. Now I've got some Velcro strips, and the black edging actually has Velcro on it. So I'm just taking this female Velcro, whatever you want to say, cutting out little strips and securing it to the pipe frame insulation. And then you can fold the black edge over, and it looks really neat. Looks real clean. And that covers up the everything I've done. So now you can see it actually just looks a lot cleaner now with all that covered. Now I'm working on with my projector. This projector I got on an auction at a school. It was like 40 bucks. And just kind of basically stand on the ladder till I find the right spot. This projector actually had some nice auto keyframing to help kind of line things up. So that worked out pretty nicely. Now I'm working on the ceiling mount for the projector. So I'm taking these 2x4s, and I again find the seam line where I know that the studs are, the rafter studs, and securing that in. I'm actually going to do 2 here, so that gives me, I don't have to mess around with the weird angle. I'm just going to use the 2 of these boards to give me like a 90-degree angle that I can secure my another 2x4 into. Now I'm working on the base that's going to be the projector. This little board is basically going to hold the projector up. So I just basically punched the location where the screws would go into the board, and then drilled a hole, and then put the screws in. This is kind of what it looks like here with those screws installed. I put those big nuts in there to act as a spacer. Now up on the ladder, and this board is going to be like the length of the projector, using a level to make sure it's level, and then screw it into those 2 boards on the ceiling. And actually duplicate it on the other side, and then testing to see where my projector is going to go. I want it to sit above where my garage door will, when you open the garage door, it needs to clear that. But this is what I ended up with. See, it's just 2x4s holding a runner in the middle, and then the runner with this angled piece makes sure that the projector is pointing down at the right angle to project onto the screen properly. So now I can work on the floor. I've got this is 1/2-inch puzzle piece like workout mats, and they just fit together real nicely. Now I got 1/2 inch. I think if you did 3/4 or even 1 inch, that would be probably good. Having maybe a little bit more is better than a little less, because you're also going to be hitting on top of this, and so having a little bit extra protection to make sure you keep your joints are safe, because you have cement underneath this, so banging a steel club into cement's not good. And then yeah, you can see this is kind of my initial test setup here. I've got some of my carpeting, and this is my first swing right here. Pretty pumped about this. And sure enough, everything works perfectly fine. Pretty thrilling. Ball bounces back appropriately. Now I'm testing with a 3-wood, make sure this will work. Now, the mat is a fiber-built practice station. I actually got it from a trade with a friend, and it actually works pretty good. Just kind of testing to make sure I've got enough clearance. I'm pretty good on the height. And then now you can see I set up my Bushnell Launch Pro and some range balls that I bought and some baskets. And yeah, you can see my gaming PC there on the left. Actually had a lot of trouble getting it set up. That gaming PC we had some problems, so I ended up switching to a whole different computer. Now that I know everything works, I'm continuing to kind of cover up or make it a little bit prettier. Initially starting using a bunch of pillows and like blanketing material to cover the bottom. And you can see I'm actually playing my first hole here. So again, just getting a feel to make sure everything's working properly. This is the, when you buy the gold subscription with the Bushnell Launch Pro, it comes with FSX Play. So this is one of the courses on FSX Play. It also comes with Awesome Golf. And between FSX Play and Awesome Golf, it's actually a really nice setup. The Awesome Golf works really well with my kids. They enjoy playing on it. But when I want to play something a little more serious and accurate, I'll do FSX Play. You can also do GS Pro, which would be really nice because that would add some nice name brand courses that people would know. But FSX Play is working pretty well for now, and I may upgrade to GS Pro in the future. Now you can see this is a little golf club rack I got on Amazon, link in description, to hold my clubs. And I add a little shelf, and there's my gaming PC, my keyboard and mouse. There's my drapes to cover the car. And overall, it's looking pretty good. This just kind of was the initial setup, and we're making progress. So next I bought a net. This is golf netting. I got it was like $50 on Amazon. And I basically am cutting it in half. So I measured about 5 feet. It's a 10-foot square. So I found approximately 5 feet in the middle. And I'm going to cut this guy in half. And this is what's going to become the left cover and the top cover. I did find with my existing setup as it was, as you just saw it, some errant shots from my kids or even myself would bang into the wall or the ceiling. So you do need some left and top and right side cover. So just using those eye hooks again, and it's got about 6 inches of clearance between it and the wall, and we're just hanging it up. The netting is definitely the cheapest way to get this all covered. Like I said at the beginning, I initially was going to go with the 2x4 framing and maybe use some, more of a solid fabric to cover it all, but I found this to be a little bit cheaper, and it doesn't look as nice, but it's perfectly functional, and I was trying to keep my budget pretty limited here. So just using eye hooks to hold this frame up, this netting up on all sides. And the top cover is really necessary too if you're going to hit wedges, like a 56 or a 60 degree will bank off the screen and hit up into the ceiling. And so I found I was having some problems hitting wedges. So you really do need the top cover as well. But the net has done awesome so far. So you can see this with all that set up, and it's working really good. There's my daughter. She's loving it. She really loves playing on Awesome Golf. Okay, a little change. This was the original. So this used to be lined right in here. And that gave me, if we look at the tape measure, we're talking about 10 inches from the wall. I had a couple of times where my wife wondered if I was hitting balls into this space here, and if the screen was actually, if the balls were actually impacting into the wood here. I've got this kind of foam, this is carpet underlayment, and I've got some blankets, so I kind of doubted it, but I did have a couple times actually where I was hitting driver and the ball was ricocheting back pretty aggressively. So what I decided to do was actually just extend this. So now we're looking more like about a foot of gap between where the impact screen will be and the wall. So I just extended these boards that I'm using to secure the simulator frame to the wall, and that should take care of that problem. Alright, I made a couple of improvements. I got some more of that EMT conduit, and I laid it here to cover the wood here on the bottom, and then I'm just taking some old blankets and covering that. Could probably get some more fabric. I also got some maroon colored fabric here, and there's EMT conduit, and then I actually stapled this all on there. So these were like from the secondhand store, like little $5 drapes actually. So now all of my four edges are covered, and certainly could do this covering or this barrier type stuff in a way that looks different. If you want something that looks a little bit more professionally done, you certainly could. But I'm actually really quite happy with this. Improvement number 2, I got more of these puzzle mat pieces. So now it actually covers this whole space, which I really quite like. Now, this is like a $20, $30 like piece of outdoor carpet from Lowe's, and that's been doing just fine. Honestly, with all of this black tiles, you don't really need it, but it does kind of make it at least look or feel a little bit better. And then I did actually get a new hitting mat. This was one on Amazon. It was actually on a Black Friday sale, so I still have my old one here, but may choose to get rid of it. It's not super thick. It's got like probably a 1/2 inch rubber pad, but I actually think it will be nice. You know, one thing that actually you can't do with this one is putt, just because the location of where you would actually putt from, like the ball falls off the front and it needs to be able to read it. So with this, I'll actually have the ability to putt. And what I might do is do another layer of the foam underneath this green pad and to build it up so it's a double layer, so it's a little more flush. And other than that, I'm actually really quite thrilled with how this has turned out. I have found, so if I'm hitting here, I know people are probably concerned about the van, and rightfully so, but if I'm hitting here, like, you know, if my ball is going to be here, I mean, if you shank one, you will hit one in here into the front of the van. Now, if it's just me, and, you know, I can pull this shut, it provides some cover there, but, you know, if you know, that's just hitting the van door there, so that's not going to do much. So if I'm hitting in here in such a way that, you know, I can pull the van out, and I have been doing that. But you know, if I've got friends over, especially if my kids are playing, the van comes out. That's a necessity. You know, I've found most of like the shanks or problems are really pretty well contained within a couple of feet, but it is nice to have it just to take the van out so you don't have to worry about it. Another comment I want to make about the Bushnell, it has 3 ways it can connect. One is through Ethernet, which is what I'm using. The other one is USB Type-C, and then the other one is Wi-Fi. I have used Ethernet and I have used Wi-Fi, and those have worked fine. I initially had an old Ethernet cable from my parts drawer and was having all kinds of problems. And so I bought a brand new Ethernet cord. I think this is a Cat 5e. I don't know a lot about Ethernet cables, but I believe that they had older protocols, and I'm guessing that old Ethernet cord just wasn't like able to transfer the data that this one needed. And since I switched to this new Ethernet cord, it's been rock solid. I did try Wi-Fi once, and actually that worked fine. But I would recommend a nice new Ethernet cord, and that has worked really well for me. Okay, so I turned my main lights off. Another little improvement is I did add a little spotlight. This is just a little $20 spotlight to give some illumination down here, but it doesn't throw a ton of light on the projector. I want to talk about the screen. This is the Carl's Place standard screen, and if I look at it with my eyes, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell this, but I can see that there are little ridges or little waves, especially in like the bottom line area where it's white. But I think if you get the higher quality projector, you're going to get a smoother finish, and you won't get those little ridges or those little waves in the image. in my opinion, it does not bother me. Like when I'm playing golf and there's a more dynamic image on the screen, you really can't see them as easily at that time. But when you're just here on the home screen, you can see it a little bit better. But that has not bothered me at all. One thing I will also note is this screen does seem to be very durable. And I've also been very impressed that it really hasn't even started like to show wear. You know, it's not wearing out very quickly. And so I've been really happy with the Carl's Place screen. I'm happy that I purchased that one. One comment about my projector, it's an old Epson from an elementary school. It's a 720p, but it's like a 4x3, so it's like, I don't know, whatever, something by 768. 1024 by 768, I think is the resolution. It's not a super high resolution projector. And it's a weakness that I probably will look to update, but it was like $40, and so the price was right, and I've really enjoyed it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the hardware and software setup with the gaming PC. So when I first set this up, I was having all kinds of problems. It was getting blue screen of death, and it just wasn't working very well. I think I was having an issue with that gaming computer, and so I switched to this one. This is an old gaming PC that I built like years ago. And so if I look at the specs, I believe it's got an old Core i5. Yeah, you can see it's got a Core i5 4670K CPU at 3.4 gigahertz. It's not overclocked at all. I've got 8 gigs of RAM. And for the display, I've got an RX 570. And so I would say my computer specs, like when I built this years ago, it was a nice gaming computer. I would say now it's relatively inexpensive. I think I spent $60 on the graphics card to update it because this was just a PC that I had in my house. This has ran FSX Play completely fine on medium settings. I think if you wanted to do GS Pro, it might struggle a little bit. Might need another stick of RAM and maybe even a better graphics card. But for my purposes, this thing's been awesome. Since I switched to this one, it's been rock solid. When I set this up in here, I reformatted it. I put a clean install of Windows 10, and I've only really got like the FSX stuff on here. So it's worked great. Then, and you know what? Honestly, if you are going to run GS Pro, I think if you had 16 gigs of RAM, and if you had a little bit of a better graphics card, like if you spent more like $100 on a graphics card compared to 60, I think you could do really well. That's just my opinion, but I haven't tried it yet. So then let's talk a little bit about what do you get right now. I've got the Bushnell Launch Pro, and Bushnell, they do they changed their pricing model kind of a lot since the product initially came out. But right now, if you pay $500 a year, which they do in installments, so it's like 4 $160 payments throughout the year, then you get the gold package. The gold package unlocks the ability to do simulation. If you don't do the gold package and you just do the regular subscription, then you just get the data on the screen, and it doesn't communicate with the computer at all. So you have to get the gold package, and then there's really 4 different things. They have a couple things. One is Awesome Golf, and then they have FSX Pro, which is like a club fitting thing. They've got FSX Play, and then I believe this is FSX Subscription. And those are really the main pieces of software that come with it, and I'd like to show those to you now. Okay, this is a quick little tour of Awesome Golf. When you launch it, you click on Foresight. It'll search for devices. This is the screen where you can select your connection types. I'm going to do Ethernet. Sometimes it has a little bit of trouble here, and I find if I just close Awesome Golf and open it up again, it works fine. But like I said, since I did the new Ethernet cable, it's gone really, really well. And then this is Awesome Golf. It has a driving range. It has different challenges, shootouts, and it does have virtual golf, so you can actually play simulator golf on this thing. I would say that in my experience, this is more of a for fun type software. Like the driving range, the numbers are like the software processes the numbers just a little bit differently than even what you see on the screen when you hit on the Bushnell. And so I don't think, like when you play the virtual golf, it's more graphics, are more cartoony, and I think the realism is decreased. So in my opinion, Awesome Golf is fun for the driving range. It also has these shootouts that my kids love. My children love playing these games. There are more for fun. Like they've got this wrecking balls where you gotta, you can set the target nice and close, and you gotta try to hit your ball into this structure, and it knocks it over, and the kids think it's hilarious. It's pretty cool. But for me, I get a lot more bang for my buck using the other ones. I want to show you FSX subscription. This is like a version of FSX 2020, and they've got a driving range on here that is awesome, and I love it. So if you've ever watched like TXG, those guys I think are using a GC Quad, which would be like the big brother to the Bushnell, and this is like the software that would be similar to what they use, and it's really, really good. All right, so this is a look at me hitting some balls into that FSX 2020 subscription software. This is kind of like a little bit of a scaled down version compared to the one that you would see like on, for example, like a TXG or a Club Champion, like some of the big fitting channels on YouTube. It's very similar to that. You can see the driving range looks very similar, and it works great. I have been thrilled with this driving range on this FSX subscription. You can see all the data on the left side of the screen. It gives you all kinds of club and ball data, and it is extremely accurate. It's extremely thorough, and there's tremendous room here to improve your skills, to do club fitting, to dial in your equipment. You could do a ton of really cool things with all of this software. And so this has honestly been, as somebody that really likes to tinker with clubs, you could do all kinds of good work here. This is a screenshot of the ball data screen. You can see all of the things that are provided with the ball data. It's all the main metrics that you would want, and it's really, really useful. Then we also have the club data screen here. Now the club data is just ever so slightly scaled back. It's a one dot on the club head. You put one little reflective sticker, and so there are a couple of things that you do not get, like face angle, I believe, but or dynamic loft. But overall, it's really good, and I'm really quite thrilled with this. All right, next I wanted to share my cost breakdown. This is my best estimate. I did try to keep detailed records of everything that I spent. I've also got links to everything on Amazon. I will include those links in the description if you want to go check it out for yourself. But, to just kind of break down where I put my money, this build coming in at just under $4,000, at about $3,800, this is definitely on the more inexpensive side, especially considering that I spent $2,500 on the simulator and then another $500 on its software. So really $3,000 of the $3,853 is on the launch monitor, and that's really where I put my emphasis. I think having the Bushnell Launch Pro being one of the more accurate, more detailed units on the market, that really was a priority for me, and I'm quite thrilled with that. Which also means, though, that I had to sacrifice in other areas. I had to build the frame myself. I used my woodworking tools. I didn't factor any of those tools into this, but if you don't have a woodworking shop or the ability to work with that, that might not be an option. I do think that the metal conduit would be a little easier. I think a lot of it kind of screws or just plugs together. You just, connecting pieces together. The impact screen, I picked a clearance model, which I think helped the budget a little bit, be a little bit cheaper. I still got a nice screen, but for $277, I think I got a pretty good deal on this clearance model. But it also means I had to fiddle around with the tarp clips, and my impact screen doesn't actually fit my space perfectly. But that was a compromise I was willing to make. Next, I would note about the gaming PC. I spent $60 on a graphics card upgrade. I got an RX 580, and I plugged it into an old PC that I had actually built years ago and was kind of using as a spare. And so I think actually the motherboard was sitting in a box, and then I had another case and a power supply, and I just kind of cobbled this thing together. Now, not everybody may be able to build their own gaming PC, and so if you had to do this for yourself from scratch and go buy one from the store, it'd probably be quite a bit more expensive. But again, I think, with this build, I've been kind of trying to gather these parts slowly over time and looking out for good deals. So time really was an ally of mine. And on that note as well, the projector, for $40 for a projector, I think this projector is actually really nice. I also would note this is probably the weakest part of my setup, and the first part I'm going to look to upgrade would be getting a nicer projector. But for now, I'm quite happy with how this has played out. Maybe the only other comment I would make would be about the flooring. The puzzle piece gym mat flooring has worked out really nice, but I might look to get some more green carpet to just cover the whole space. So overall, this is my cost breakdown, and I'm pretty happy with that. I am probably going to continue to iterate and make small improvements on this setup as time goes by, but for now, I'm going to call this completion. I think that the setup I've got here is something I'm pretty happy with, and I just think it's come together really nicely. I've been really enjoying it. The most recent updates, I've got this Amazon mat, which is 5 foot by 4 foot. I extended the rubber underlayment all the way out to cover more of the floor, which has been a really nice update. Still using my original projector. It's 1048 by 768, I believe. Still got my basically 10 foot by 10 foot square. Got the netting up on the sides. Got this double curtain here to cover the right barrier. This works just fine when I'm hitting balls, but what I found when I have people over, I just roll the van out and that works just fine. Overall, this setup has been fantastic. Really enjoying it. Let me know if you guys have any questions or thoughts down below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, bye.